Continuing on, the wheelie poppin' trike episode. And you know, UFOs are all good, right? We got the bubble, it's under wraps. We got something started for the sheathing. We got something started on the sheathing for the surround of the UFO, but it's not working out. That's another video. So, bottom line is, it ain't gonna ride around and pop wheelies in this state of disrepair. We got a couple things to attend to. We have to mount the transaxle, which was just put in place for fit up, and we're gonna yank the engine. I did a couple other things, namely there's a new front tire, and then there's a few parts I bought to make all this happen. So without further ado, without power and transmission and the rider, it's never gonna do the thing. I also want it to be drivable without the UFO. See, that's the whole bottom line here. It's just gonna look like a cool trike without the saucer on top. That's where the crane comes in. The saucer lands on a little docking platform, and I got a ride. Always an ulterior motive. Okay, so as I mentioned, I did get a new front tire. It's substantially larger than the other one. And surprisingly, in a 19-inch rim, mostly what's affordable is these dual sport tires. Typically, I would go for that Avon style, you know, the ribs around the tire. It's a very old school looking chopper front tire choice, but I figured this one's gonna have a lot of weight. It's gonna be coming down on front end rather hard, so I went for the largest tire I could get. So you can see, the issue here is there's just only a little bit of room between these fork legs. So in the end, if I have to put some spacers here just to open it up a little bit, that's what I'm gonna do. But right now it doesn't rub, and it's got some chunk, which I think looks cool. All right, another item I bought was these boots for the transaxle. You can see that one is tore right open. So I got a ratchet strap on the transaxle. So first thing, get the engine out, get that transmission, lift it a little, and then we can put those boots on. I know, this is how it's done in this workshop. Just pushing stuff around on the floor. So when I did all this, I left the tools and the hardware in place because I knew that this was coming back out. And that's one thing I'm considering also. When I detach the UFO, will this whole rack just detach with it? Might be a little easier than trying to get the hinge pin and all the other stuff figured out. But we'll see. You know, the good thing is I do have a good predictable crane to take it off and on with. Because I want this to look cool, you know, when it's all said and done. That is one of the joys of the Volkswagen engine. In and out, like butter. Unless you saw the other cut where I was struggling with it like an ape. But different story for a different day. So yeah, I'm gonna need to get some new hardware. I need to get a Bowden tube. That's that, come on VW guys, you know what I'm talking about. It's the tube that goes here that the clutch cable runs through. I've done it without them. Sometimes you get a chattery feeling clutch though. The tension in that helps. I don't know why these are all cross-threading now, but. All right, so where were we? We got this hardware. Then we're gonna, I believe I'm just gonna raise the transaxle up and put these boots on with it sort of halfway in place. Let's get this starter out of our way. Now, I just got to say one thing. Mechanical stuff, it's not my forte, nor is it fun, nor is it easy. So let's see how Jamie treats this little bit of boring scenario with another fine musical selection. So the whole goal here was to lift it up so that these little booties aren't crushed against the frame horns. Now for everyone here groaning about the lack of entertainment, let's remember what kind of channel this is. And that there is a lot of discipline in these mundane tasks. So if you know a little bit about Volkswagens, this is nothing new. But if you don't know anything about Volkswagens, this might be interesting. So this thing was kicking around in a couple different people's yards, getting all messed up. So there's dirt in the transaxle, guaranteed. Fortunately, where this is ripped open, it's kind of a hard path for the dirt to follow. So I always like to save these hose clamps, but this one's pretty beat up. I might just cut it. We got a zip tie. We got rubber. Pretty thoroughly desert-ified. This transaxle came out of Rosamond, California. Prime dune buggy territory. So it's dirty. So this is what we're talking about. Oh, actually good, it's free. I was worried that it was going to be so bound up that this didn't move. All right, so this is what I was describing. You know, there's like this piece of plastic in there. It's kind of a flower-shaped thing. Hard to describe without seeing it, but you know, the dirt's got to go in here and then around this metal piece and then find its way inside to the gears. So chances that a lot went in there is pretty slim. You know, I'm sure the water was pooling in here, but nothing's locked up in the transmission. So we're gonna drain all that oil, but I'm gonna blow this out with air, you'll see. All right, so I wire wheeled this area, and then the two surfaces that are gonna be sealed, I'm just wiping them with this cloth, crocodile cloth. Works pretty good. Whatever's here that's in there is in there, right? It's gonna come out the drain plug, hopefully. I don't wanna take any of this apart. This is moving freely. It's not making any super weird grindy noises. So this is cool. Let's put this one together. So it's pretty straightforward with these kits. With the originals, whoa, there we go. The originals went on a different way. They just kind of slipped in place, but now they sell these split boots, which are a very straightforward repair. So you just want to get this tilted, get this axle reasonably straight. That doesn't even come close. What's going on here? So they set them up with these miniature freaking hardware. Slot head screwdrivers, so this should be fun. There's one thing that's gonna test my patience. If you know me, you know it's miniature hardware, outdated ideas, and stuff that don't fit. Of which I think we have all three right here. Miniature hardware. The outdated idea is that this screw system, nowadays, I'm sure you could just have a little, like, not a zip tie, but something like that. There's no pressure in here at all. It's just as the vehicle suspension moves, you know, maybe the thing goes over hills or rolls over. You know, this doesn't actually fill with oil. It just sort of catches it if it should drip out of there. So they do tend to fill with oil, but they're not meant as like our oil reservoir. It's meant to pour back into the transmission. But if you've ever had a Volkswagen, you know these things leak a lot. So transmission fluid does go in there. When I say fluid, I mean gear oil. So we're just gonna get these bolted up first and try to slip it into place. They gave us these original style things that, you know, unfortunately, I never have luck with this. It's like you're meant to like pull it into position, then they lock. Super, that's what I mean by just an old bad idea. Pretty sure I saved a few of these from other Volkswagen projects, so that's the modern way to do it. And the only improvement I've seen is the better hose clamp design. So these are like $2 cheaper or something, but they're all kind of the same. See, number of hardwares being put into position, and this seam always stays on the top for what I think is obvious reasons. Seams at the bottom, doesn't seal, oil comes straight out. They counted wrong and gave us an extra washer, so that's one for the floor. Now these don't need to be very tight either. Honestly, just about finger tight, I'm sure, is adequate, because all it's going to do is crush this silicone. It's more like stitching actually than it is bolts. It's just holding this thing shut, relatively speaking. See, now that I got these, I'll just push this one into place, tighten it, but I'll leave this one loose so we can rotate the axle when we set it into the spring plate. So in the VW world, you'll hear people tossing around a lot of different terms, because it's sort of it's a hybrid of sorts in comparison to your standard, horse in front theory with the American cars and their engine in front. You have a transaxle, not a transmission, with a drive shaft. And then the axles are actually inside this. This is just an axle tube that kind of supports the bearing, keeps this thing reasonably in place. Yeah, and that's what I didn't like about this design. This thing's clearly too freaking small. I mean, too small like it won't fit, or too small like it'll seal up really perfectly. I don't know. I don't like it. Already, I'm starting to feel that anger we see so much in custom car building. When something ain't gonna work. Why? Like, this ain't right. Look, it just failed going into place. All right. So as the cartoons will say, 3 hours later, took a ride, went to Doug's Bugs, either Mesa or Tempe. So, right, it looks exactly the same. This one's an MP product. Look at the difference. This one is clearly smaller. Crazy. Same idea, but a harder material. So when you put the MP product on, look at that, it closes right up. Crazy. I don't know what the story is with that other brand, but just saying, if you're shopping online, buyer beware. Were these twice the price? They sure were. But sometimes paying a little more up front and not having to drive a 3-hour round trip might be a little worth the effort. So yeah, not bringing up any names, but let's all curse Amazon together for being it's like they hide behind a veil. Like, you never actually know what you're getting. But the return policy is good, but it expired yesterday for those parts. Now, I don't know if I knew something just deep in the back of my mind, like I had to check those pieces out. I don't know, but we got to it. And here I am, failing in a fresh new way. Till right now. 3 hours later. This thing might work cool for a shifter or something, but I got 2 of those. Just telling the people out there, don't make the same mistakes I did. End up with a bigger pile of trash than me if you don't follow my lead. So, I think we were right at about this point when I started to get really concerned. This is what I expected to happen, right? Put the happy little hardware in its happy little place. Everything's looking good. Everything's looking good here. I feel so satisfied with this purchase. This kit does not have the aforementioned little plastic zip ties either, but now you push it into place. Oh, look at that. It just literally slips into position like you see in a catalog. Love it. Thanks, MP. Thanks for keeping it real. We know Empy has had a little bit of ups and downs in the way people would refer to it, but nowadays it's pretty much top-notch stuff. Because I was talking with the guy at Doug's Bugs. He's like, we've been in business since '87. I was like, yeah, bro, I've been around. He's like, you're showing your age. But I actually went to Doug's Bugs in wherever they're located, 1989. Yeah, been around a while. So I built a car in New York, a Bug, pretty much with all California parts that the UPS driver delivered. So I wanted to do a tour of all these places where I was buying parts and reading about in magazines. So if you're in the Phoenix, Mesa, Tempe area, I guess this shop has quite a reputation. They got some awesome cars, engines and whatnot, sitting in their little showroom. But yeah, the guy was saying, yeah, the days of the VW parts store on every corner in the neighborhood, those days are gone. That ended some time ago. But they're still around. That's why I chose to drive out there, because they had it right now. Otherwise, I'd be waiting on another possibly failed Amazon order. So anyway, I got the clamp on there, and that's what I was saying. We could tighten these up now, finger tight. We got no weird distortion of the rubber piece. The reason I have the transmission lifted up is because this is going to flatten a little bit when it contacts the frame horn later, when we drop it into place. But I don't know how far we're going to get today because time's a-wasting. And you know me, I don't like to work overtime. I don't like to rush. I don't like to prove something that doesn't need proving. I've had enough of all those things. So I'm going to work at what I want to for the time and then quit it. So I left this clamp off. That way we can rotate this, right? Because this is going to come into the spring plate. So let's drop this one. Head to the other side. Let's do the same thing. And I don't know what it's like around the world. Like, I'd be interested. I know we have like a lot of Australian viewers. At least the feedback I get is from a lot of Australian viewers. And I know that the motorsports, industry, the motorsports enthusiasm is pretty epic there. But I wonder, like, what's the story with your part of the world's aftermarket supply chain? Is it a real hassle to get quality stuff? Picked up a couple other VW only things while I was there as well. There's these little things called, I think they're barrel nuts or something. It's the little fitting that holds the accelerator cable and the carburetor. It's kind of a unique thing. And, when you got one, you got one. When you don't got one, you're going to be wondering how to replace it. So I bought two. I was also going to buy that flexible clutch tube, the Bowden tube, but I forgot. So there's that. This trike didn't have one, so I imagine it was being driven successfully without it. The only thing that happens with that is it could lead to some clutch chatter. Say you're starting in motion, you're heading uphill, and you're really going to ease on that clutch. It could add to some of that action. We'll find out. This is a wheelie popper, so we ain't going to be feathering that clutch much. We're going to be dumping it. Basically, it's going to be an on-off switch. So we'll see. Now, real time, you see that this isn't a very long process. If you're dealing with a full-bodied vehicle with the transmission still inside, you're going to be underneath trying to sort all this out. and you may not have the luxury of lifting the transaxle up as I did, so there's going to be a little squeezing trying to get that in there. So you're seeing the textbook perfect case scenario, because yeah, that's why we like trikes and buggies. You get to access the mechanical stuff without any of that full body drama. Man, I know I cleaned this out, but I'm seeing some leaves. Let me just get this hardware started before everything comes apart. Isn't that fun? Isn't that one of the most joyous things about working on vehicles? Is to do about 6 things to accomplish one thing, and while 5 of those 6 things are in motion, they're all somewhat teetering on disassembling themselves. In other words, this floor jack is about to fall away while the jack stand is somewhat supporting the other side, and I'm trying to put these micro fasteners together with my giant Mongo fingers. And one wrong move, this whole thing might just come apart. Talking about transmission, slipping that jack out from under it, all kinds of fun stuff. So let's see what happens now. Oh, there it goes. Now it's loose. All right, cool. Now it's secure. There is a little more crust in here. As I mentioned, the crust may have gone further, but we're going to deal with that through the drain plug side. There's a little breather hole in these transaxles, so you can open the drain plug and just put compressed air in there and kind of tap your thumb on the drain plug and just purge it of whatever's in there. There's probably some water, I imagine. All right, accomplished the same thing as the other side. A little cleanup there, getting the sand and oil off. Then we're gonna set this somewhat even and level. No grit got in there. And wow, look at that, it fits. Amazing. Amazing when something actually fits. If you remember one of the full custom garage episodes, I got to visit the MP location, and they really have upped their game. Back in the day, they were making some cheesy bolt-on parts, you know, anything to sell. But now they're making, you know, what I would consider restoration caliber stuff. You know, not. I told the guy, yeah, you know, I want some of those MP style swing axle boots. You know, as long as they're black. He's like, yeah, I think the days of the fluorescent pink is over. They used to have like neon blue, like a hot yellow. And that was the thing, wherever they're being manufactured, like they had all these chrome engine tin things. And I remember a lot of it just didn't fit. I bought this chrome distributor hold down. Just this little stamped metal part that's supposed to hold the distributor. Totally did not work. Never held that distributor in place. What I do? Started the engine about 10 times, watched the distributor slowly rotate into a misfire, diagnosed that, and then threw that part in the trash, just like the other stuff I just threw out. So that's just gonna hang out right here, not tight, because again, we're gonna wanna rotate this. Voila. All right, let's put that transmission back where it's supposed to be. And then we can bolt these axles together. Well, when I say together, I mean bolt the axle to the spring plate, if my big knee's not in the way. Let's save this hardware. I don't know why we're gonna save it, but it's nice that they threw all these extras in the bag. I remember the first set of these things I bought, it was one of those hot pink ones or something. And it seemed like they had like a dozen or 15 of those bolts. What a labor. And I was doing this under the car, wondering what these crazy Volkswagen people are all about. Why do they do that? This type of work does not get ratings. Am I right? Is this the most boring episode ever? We're going to call this episode The Turn of the Screw, because I got screwed with my purchase online, and I had to make a turn and burn. All right, thanks, Doug's Bugs. We are correct. Let's drop it into place and get some bolts going. There's all the carnage from multiple packages of unacceptability, and then 2 packages of the good stuff. Here we go. Just as we were about 4 hours ago. Good times. There's so much sand coming out of these brake drums. I have to pull them off and give that some attention as well. Like most everything, I'm sure we need the whole kit. Wheel cylinders, bearing seals, possible brake pads. You never know till you get in there, but that one stopped turning because there's some fresh sand coming through the system. Well, at least it's sealed there. All right, so we got these things loose. I'm gonna drop that transaxle down onto it once more. All right, so the next part is gonna be the front mounts, and they're gonna be definitely harder to see. Truth be told, they're right in between, so they made that angle iron as a solid mount, so I'm gonna be down there trying to do some stuff. Not as painful as I anticipated. Interesting, for once. There's just a lot of filth falling in my face. The old filth face falling. Of course, now that I start to lounge around on the floor a bit more, I'm starting to see some of the hardware I couldn't see earlier. So I got my focals on. I'm closer to Earth. It's exciting, I know. Very exciting. But if I gotta deal with this, then you gotta deal with this. Nobody here for a free ride. We're all taking this together. All right. These are still a little loose because when I put that on, we'll remedy that. I know we're really making moves now. Got some leaves up in here. I don't see those being a problem, but route bearing feels usable for the moment. Let's work on these. These are 19 millimeters. All right, so all of this is bolted back in. We're needing to address this clutch cable. As I mentioned, there's a tube that goes from here to there, but this thing is so chopped up, none of that exists anymore. So they put a loop in the cable, and I'm just gonna wait on that. But basically that goes through there. It's wide open so we can get to that anytime. The other thing was the battery. Fortunately, because this was a running trike for a while, the fella had the foresight to do the typical battery thing. You see this in sand buggies, kit cars, trikes, all the things. They typically will put the battery in this little framework right behind the torsion housing, and they've done that here. So a nice full-size battery, bug size, right in there, as it should be. So they got a ground cable, but that's all nasty. So this is cool. We're gonna need a place to put the hydraulic motor, and I figured that pump can go on that side. So I think that wraps us up for this afternoon. Made some progress. Quite frankly, I gotta say, I'm going to be amazed if Jamie can make anything fun come from this footage. But it took me all day to do 2 or 3 little things that basically don't even matter in the grand scheme of things until you're trying to pop a wheelie. So, yep, that's what we did. Basic fundamentals. Let's have some fun next time. Can we please? Let's do it.